scheduled presentation, which is by the city's engineering design consultant, the RBA Group of Connecticut LLC, regarding the Waterbury Naugatuck River Greenway project. I don't know who's going to do the presentation, but if you would just, when you come up, and any other speakers, if they come up, please just state your name and who you're with on the record, so the clerk will have it for the transcript.
Good evening, Alderman Federosi, members of the board. My name is Sal Corte. I'm the project manager for DPW and the project manager for the Greenway project. Today, as was mentioned before, we have a presentation by the RBA Group, Mr. Jackson Andres. He's the Director of Landscape Architecture and Planning for RBA. He will be giving the presentation. And he will be introducing the project to the new aldermen, as I said, and bringing everyone up to speed to the status of the project, the current state, as well as future plans for the Greenway. The Greenway, as you're aware, is a multimodal transportation path that runs primarily along the river. It is part of the larger 44-mile Naugatuck River Greenway. Currently, there are two phases under design. Phase 1, which runs from the Naugatuck boundary to Eagle Street, Phase 1 extension, which runs from Eagle Street to West Main Street. In order to be brief, I will actually turn it over to Mr. Wanders at this time. He can take over.
Thank you, Sal. Again, my name is Jackson Wanders. I'm a landscape architect, and I work for a consulting firm called the RBA Group out of South Norwalk. And we were hired approximately 2.5 years ago to design the Waterbury Naugatuck River Greenway, which at that point, the project limits for that project were to run along South Main Street, as Sal said, from along Platts Mills from the Naugatuck line up to Eagle Street. And what we've done is put together a little presentation to quickly bring you up to speed on that project and what we're contemplating really now, and with your help here tonight, the extension of that project all the way up to West Main Street. So if you'll direct your attention to the slides on the screen, to my left, these are the project limits for the Phase 1 project, which is funded, and design is about 40% complete. The money is federal, and it's being channeled through Connecticut DOT, and so they are our reviewing agency. Everything goes through them, and they're studying the 40% complete plans now. This just shows you that the route runs along Platts Mills, and then continues along South Main Street as far as Eagle Street. At one time, there was a proposal to cross to the other side of the river at Eagle Street. We're no longer doing that. This is a quick little photo simulation, a simple picture to give you an idea of how the trail would look along the edge of South Main Street. And we are working very closely with ConDOT to put portions of that road on what we call a road diet. Traffic analysis has determined that it's a little bit over capacity, and we can steal some width from the roadway itself to create this path, this two-way, multi-use recreational path along the edge of the road. There is one area where there's a string of businesses along South Main Street, and we spent a lot of time deliberating whether it would be better to go in front of the businesses or behind the businesses with the path. A number of meetings were held in the field with the business owners, and right now, as the project currently stands, we're going behind the businesses along the edge of the river, and that's a rendering of what the pathway would look like there. So this is just a quick timeline, quick history of where we live with this project. It was kicked off in 2012. I won't bore you with the details. As I said, 40% complete construction documents have been submitted to ConDOT for review. We are poised to complete final design by this summer, and hopefully we will break ground on this project in very early 2015. What I really want to talk to you about tonight is an amazing opportunity that the City of Waterbury has to capitalize on the important work being done in that Phase 1 project. We're calling it the Phase 1 extension. That first piece was about 2.5 miles long. This is another two or so miles. put it all together, you have a 4.5-mile greenway along the river, and this northward extension of that earlier project would bring the Greenway Trail up along the river very, very close to downtown Waterbury. Now, what's been happening in cities just like Waterbury all over the country is projects like this are successfully being used to catalyze economic recovery in distressed areas. And we think Waterbury is a prime candidate to do the same thing. I want to talk a little bit about what's called Tiger Grant funding. Does everybody here know what a Tiger Grant is? I'll just explain it quickly if you don't. Tiger Grant literally stands for Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery. So it's federal money for transportation-related projects, and that can be a wide variety of different types of projects, and Greenways very much qualify. But projects that specifically can be demonstrated will incentivize economic recovery in distressed urban areas. Hartford has done it, Bridgeport has done it, New Haven has done it. It's really Waterbury's turn. Tiger grants are big grants. The smallest Tiger grant you can apply for is $10 million. You can fund projects with values up to $200 million. And what I want to describe quickly for you, because I know time is limited, is a proposed $33 million project. This project is about a lot more than just building a trail along the river. It's about completely turning around these somewhat underutilized industrial lands that sit wedged between the river and downtown Waterbury. And as you can see, we're looking at doing a lot more than just building a trail. We want to build a whole network of urban infrastructure that will catalyze redevelopment in a really exciting way. And that's what Tiger grants are really there for. This is just a quick rendering, bird's eye view of what I'm talking about. There's the Naugatuck River in the foreground. Those purple areas are areas that are being studied right now for the potential for perhaps mixed use, rezoned for mixed use, perhaps transit-oriented development. Waterbury is doing so much complementary work right now, from rezoning and revitalizing brownfields to the redevelopment of the train station, and all of this work is happening in this area. The trail is just one more project in the same vein. If you put it all together, you reach what we like to call the tipping point. The federal government looks for cities that are committed and committing their own resources to projects like this so they can feel comfortable putting in big dollars of their own. We think this project has an excellent chance of really attracting their attention. One area, obviously, is downtown Waterbury, and what you notice is that it's incredibly close to the river, but when you're in downtown Waterbury, you really have no idea that the Naugatuck River is so close. It's literally a 10-minute walk away. This is just one site along the river that the trail will go right through. Some folks refer to it as the eminent site. This is just a quick study of what could happen there if some enlightened redevelopment occurred on that site, and the trail runs right through it. So what we've done, I mentioned the $33 million project, that's a big project. What we've done for our own purposes is to break it into 6 different projects. And again, with the ultimate goal that we're catalyzing industrial redevelopment. Again, here's that bird's eye view. This is the phase 2 area broken into those 6 projects. I'm just going to start to go through them one by one very quickly. Starting in the south, we're going to be starting at Eagle Street at the bottom of the slide. We're going to follow the river north. Some of you may know Roller Magic is up here. We go around Roller Magic, there it is. And we're actually going to break off. I'm giving you the actual trail route now that's been conceptualized at this point. And go around Roller Magic, along the Mad River, across Washington Avenue, onto that eminent site that I referred to before, through the eminent site, out onto Bank Street. Then we're going to cut up along the river on Jackson Street. And this is a critical point in the project because now we're really close to downtown. But you have the train yards in between the river and downtown. We proposed this site, and we weren't surprised to find that people have been talking about doing this on this site for 30 years. We proposed a 19-acre public park right here. This is otherwise a very isolated spot along the river for the trail. And we thought a park would be the perfect way to really bring people to the waterfront and activate that space that could otherwise seem very sort of forlorn and scary. So here we're proposing the reconstruction of Jackson Street and punching it through to Freight Street. We have another idea of that same location, which is connecting to Library Park and the train station directly. And then between Freight Street and West Main Street, we have some ideas about how this very large chunk of industrial land can actually be turned into a number of smaller, more developable lots. So I'm just going to go through those 6 sections very quickly with some actual drawings to indicate what we're proposing to do here. This is all conceptual design. This is not something you would take and start building from. Obviously, these are ideas. They're malleable. The proposal is to get this Tiger Grant application in June of 2014 with 40% complete contract plans. So between now and June, we'd be preparing contract plans for the things that we're showing you here. But in the process, we'd be refining the design with input from the public and the city and our other project partners. So this is going back to the south, Eagle Street to Washington Avenue. It's on road, meaning the trail runs along the edge of South Main Street. And then eventually it turns in, as I said, and goes behind Roller Magic. And it runs along the river. Again, here's a rendering of what it might look like where it runs along the river. Then we cross over Washington Avenue onto that large industrial parcel, which is vacant right now, the eminent site. We run through that site right adjacent to the river. The city is in the process of negotiating a 30-foot easement on that property, so the trail can pass through that property directly adjacent to the river. That's our rendering of what that trail could look like, where it turns into a big, beautiful public esplanade. We've taken our artistic license and shown what that site might actually be like if it were turned into some kind of an entertainment venue or some other type of development, mixed use, as I mentioned before. So we get onto Bank Street, we get onto Jackson Street, which takes us into lands that were occupied by CL&P, Connecticut Light and Power. And also there's some land up there owned by Condot in the area of the I-84, I-80 interchange. And that large undeveloped vacant tract along the river is where we're proposing a new 19-acre park. The park would be designed primarily with big athletic fields. We did a little bit of outreach. Seems like there's interest in having more, perhaps some soccer fields, baseball fields, etc. But also things like playgrounds, fitness courts, and of course the trail itself would run through here on the river. It's kind of a bird's eye view looking north along Jackson Street from the southern end of that property, of what that might look like once it was rebuilt. I'm going to come back to this at the end because I do want to talk a little bit about how you might get from this point on the trail into downtown most directly. But for the meantime, the idea is that's Jackson Street on the right-hand side that's completely rebuilt and extended north of where it currently terminates. It just comes to a dead end a little south of I-84 right now in this area. We would push it straight through on an old railroad right away right to Freight Street. So then you get to Freight Street. Freight Street provides an excellent opportunity to actually physically connect this proposed trailway with downtown Waterbury. Freight Street is enormously under capacity from a traffic point of view. It's incredibly wide, and we see it as an opportunity to create a really great urban boulevard, what we call a complete street, with a trail along it. That's a rendering of what Freight Street could look like. Again, we've taken artistic license with some of the buildings that line Freight Street. The idea being that this entire area becomes the subject of a redevelopment and rezoning strategy to encourage mixed use coming into the area. And so these buildings could get bought up and renovated and turned into other things. But Freight Street does not need to be as wide as it is. There's plenty of room to build a first-class trail facility like the one you see pictured here. It's just another study on how the design actually works on Freight Street. And another view from above. Between Freight Street and West Main Street, we're actually proposing that the trail cross to the other side of the river, across the bridge at Freight Street and back across the bridge at West Main. But we are looking at this, like I said, this large area of industrial land. Now there are viable businesses in there now that nobody is looking to displace, but there are also some big empty parcels. And what might really hold this area back from gradual redevelopment over time, if the right zoning is put in place, is the fact that it is such a large parcel and doesn't have a lot of good roadway frontage. So the red lines on the aerial view there are indicating locations where the city would actually take have the forethought to take the lead and build local streets that create more developable sized parcels and create a lot more roadway frontage, therefore incentivizing redevelopment of some of these properties. I mentioned I wanted to talk, when I was back at the Riverfront Park, talk about an enormous opportunity that's there. When you're at that location where we're proposing the park, you're literally, if you could walk in a straight line, you could walk to the Waterbury Green in a little over 10 minutes. But of course you can't because the railroad is there and Meadow Street is there and Library Park is raised up above Meadow Street. So what we're proposing here actually is from the park. If you look at that image right in the middle, where I've got the laser pointer, here's the park. Down here, the river is just here. Here's Library Park, and at the end of the street, the Waterbury Green is just here. So we're actually proposing a spur off our trail that would come up alongside the railroad tracks. The usage of this railroad line currently is low enough that you could do at-grade crossings, controlled crossings, and then we're even looking at the possibility of a pedestrian bridge to bring you straight into the parking lots behind the Southwest Bronson Library, so that it would be possible to walk in virtually a straight line from downtown around the green, right down to Library Park, across this bridge, across the tracks, and into the park at the waterfront. People who work downtown can walk to the river in 15 minutes. That's the idea with this particular project.